All right, we're going to figure out what kind of train wreck this is going to be.
Oh, don't do that. No. You like made eye contact with me and then just was like, doing it again.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Doing it again.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to touch it.
It's just ASMR.
I don't understand those. The ASMR things.
It's for lonely people, I think.
Yeah.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
Maybe neurodivergent people.
Really?
Who isn't?
That's
Yeah, like I think everyone's neurodivergent in some way now.
Yeah.
No, I think it's always been that way.
Yeah.
Because your brain is made entirely of personal experiences that literally like was what gives it form.
Yeah.
So for something to be divergent, you have to have a baseline.
Uh-huh.
But since nobody has a brain that's formatted the same way, it's impossible to generate a baseline.
That's a good point.
Your
So
brain is smooth.
you're
No
diver-
ridges or bumps or valleys or lumps. All thoughts roll off it like a water slide.
So this is Warhammer.
Yeah. Welcome to, and I also understand for somebody freaks out that what they mean by neurodivergent is like an actual like clinical diagnosis, as in
Yeah.
fucking some sort of syndrome or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, none of us think the same way as somebody else. So
We're all neurodivergent.
we're all
somewhere.
fucking weird somehow.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I respect
this
that.
is Warhammered.
Yeah.
We're kind of a podcast
Slightly.
where we talk about Warhammer and nerd lore at a.
Wave top level.
There you go.
Nice.
I'm Jazz. That's Beer Jim,
Hey.
and that's Caitlin.
Hey.
And the other side of the Warhammered part is just the hammered part,
Right?
because we like to do a little bit of drinking around here.
A lot of it.
Now, most of the time, the drinking is brought to you by our good friends over at Second Pitch Beer Company, who have quenched many a thirst
All the
around
thirst.
these parts.
Every other thirst.
And we record at the,
thirst.
I'm just going to go ahead and claim it. We record in the BattlePub Game Studios.
Do it.
How about
yeah.
that?
Yeah.
How about, yeah.
This is the BattlePub Game Studios.
It's not like I'm really claiming it. It factually is the BattlePub Game Studios, yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing not true about that.
So anyways, most of the time I hit some awesome intro music and then I give an intro, a walk-on,
Yeah.
a something for Beer Jim, but we're doing things a little different today.
Today's different.
Because today, we're going old world. We're going to imbibe the juice that allowed the Romans to march across the continent.
That's true.
We are going to satisfy ourselves with the liquid that had to be used because water would kill you. Today on Caitlin's Wine Chateau.
All right, I'll pour for you.
Thank you. I love that I get a chateau and not just like a corner, like I'm not in timeout.
Yeah.
It's a whole damn chateau.
So this is the first time we've done wine. There's a lot of information that you can go into wine, but we're just going to talk about this one. This is a Cabernet Sauvignon. It's from the Paso Robles region in California. The year is 2019. Thank you.
Yeah, whatever.
And all of those things are very important when it comes to drinking, tasting, and identifying wine. So the Cabernet grape is very different from regular grapes. It was an accidental crossbreed between a Cabernet Franc and a Sauvignon grape in the 17th century. This caused the grape to have a thicker outside skin, which is where you get what's called tannins from wine.
It also doesn't easily get its feelings hurt.
No, has a very thick skin.
Yeah,
thick skin
you can
grape.
call it anything you want.
So the tannins come from the
I'm just going to call
skin,
you lovely.
as well as the dark color you'll see in Cabernets you get from the skin. Fun fact, majority of American and French varietals are spliced, and they are the same plant from the French grape blight that happened years ago.
There's actually a cool story behind that. So it was when they wanted to grow vines in California, they essentially called France and they were like, yo, my Frenchy brothers,
My French friends.
my frogs across the pond.
Give me some of them grapes.
Give me some of them rinds on.
Let me let me get your vines.
Let me get some roots.
Could I get them roots? I want to get your roots deep in my soils.
Can I have your
French
roots?
say? The French were like, fuck you.
And the French at first were like, no.
No. The roots are mine.
The roots are mine. They go all the way back to when the Romans came through as they planted the roots. And so they're not really ours, but we came first.
Yeah, right.
So, and we were like, oh, come on now. I promise we'll like save you from some wars and shit. And they were like, Konzutulu. And then
What does that mean? That's the greatest French sounding thing ever.
Okay, I can tell you what it is. It's not Zootaloo. It's Zoot alors, A-L-O-R-S. And it's literally just an expression of like, oh my goodness.
Zootalor.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that from now on.
Or you can just say zoot, which is like saying like, oh shucks or shoot.
But if you're dressed up when you do it and get in a fight, you can have a zoot suit riot.
Oh, you could have a zoot.
Riot. Throw back a bottle of beer. Zoot suit riot.
But yeah, so then they did end up giving California a bunch of
That's
'cause
awesome.
They like looked at it, and a bunch of like French wine masters and stuff all went to California, helped get all this going, making sure the soil was correct, and blah blah. Because they're like, you're gonna have the heritage of our grapes, my berries, and they.
So this was like the second founding.
It's a little bit like a second founding, and then the French sneezed on the grapes or something, and they had this big like vine plague.
Yeah, they had like a big bacterial growth. Or,
And and it just ran through like
everything.
the bulk of the wine country and just like nuked all these vines.
Do you remember when that was?
And they had to pull it all up. It's
18th century, 17th century.
when the wine blight came through.
I think so. It's very old.
No, there was a more recent one.
Yeah,
No.
there always seems like they're blighting.
And then so they went back to the people that they gave it to in California. And it wasn't the 17th century because California didn't exist.
Yeah,
All right.
So-
1800s,
That
late 1800s.
that track. So essentially they went back to California and they were like, "Hey, you know that stuff we gave you?
can we have some back?
All ours died. Could we get some of the children's and then we'll just take it?"
Yeah.
And then 1800s Americans are like, "You want our kids? Yeah, you can take them.
take 'em. What do you want?
No. We want
The vine.
the vines. We want the vines." So they took them. So it's
Kind of cool.
it's
That's
kind of
really
cool because it literally the genetic code of those vines
neat. Exact same.
is exactly the same. So
All it comes down to is technique. So French winemakers are very similar to Germany when we talked about German beers. They have that tradition stuck in
Right.
and they don't like to experiment outside of that tradition, which is where you get, certain wines from certain regions are called that because they follow those certain rules. Like champagne
Yeah.
is from the Champagne region.
It's sparkling wine.
It is sparkling wine, but if it's from Champagne or Champagne, it's champagne.
otherwise, it's just a prosecco.
Otherwise, it's just a prosecco. Where was I going with this?
I don't know. But I love
Regional heritage within
Regional
the
heritage.
wines.
You American wines were a little bit more experimental. Same thing with our beer. Same thing.
Yeah.
Paso Robles is very interesting, and I really enjoy the wines from there. And
Have
if
you
you're
ever
gonna,
been?
huh?
Have you been?
Never been, but it's really interesting. So there's
we need to go back to my home.
there was
and
like-
do a
No,
we
wine.
don't.
there's like 12 different.
No, we don't.
Jazz. Was there like
We don't.
12 different climates just
It's more.
in the
It's like
Paso?
42.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
42 microclimates in Paso, which is why the wines there can be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But these microclimates will change depending on like acreage.
Yeah.
Like you can have one microclimate and move like a couple of acres over and get a completely different microclimate. And the soil can have massive changeovers because of the geological phenomenon that happens through there. So there's been so much that's been
tectonic plates and stuff.
and a lot of it's been turned over. So when that tectonic action happens and then stuff gets pushed up and other stuff falls down, you can end up with soil contents that are very, very different within like quarter of a mile, half a mile of each other. You can end up with very, very different soil content. So Caitlin and I really started getting into Paso wines like 17, 18, somewhere in there, and really started learning about that region and stuff like that. And one of the reasons that such good wines come out of there is that it's north of latitude 42. And so then when you keep drawing that line across and then you cut through where all the really good French wines come out of,
Yeah.
they're all north of latitude 42.
Right.
And then you have a lot of the tectonic action that happened there because of the Alps. And so that Alpine interaction and the other one, that's why a lot of those French people were willing to push
move their stuff
wines, is
over.
they were like, okay, this grape varietal will do well here, and we don't want you ruining French tradition when people see a varietal name on it and are expecting what we produce. You could ruin the heritage of our name because you can't produce the same wines. But it's pretty cool. Even the formalities and stuff up there, like, from what I understand, a lot of the farmers just kind of work together so they can like do whole like hillsides and stuff like that. Cause the tracks apparently are owned like in these like micro quantities. So some guy will own like 2 acres, and that's really not enough to become sustainable. So a lot of them up there are like, well, I've got the body grape, but I'm missing the filler grape. And it's like, well, we got enough to do filler grape. And they kind of
back
and forth this stuff, which is really, really neat. But anyways, why don't you get into what makes cabs so cabby?
I love cabs.
The grape, obviously. So when you have a thicker skin, like I was saying, and you have that higher tannin, you're also, so for a cab, you're also going to age it in oak barrels. You'll also get tannins from the natural oak in those barrels. So being able to balance the tannin in the wine that's coming from the grape and then the tannin from the oak barrel is very important for content. And what I mean by tannin is that you can taste it in the wine itself. So if a wine is drier, if it makes your jaw tingle or makes your mouth really dry, that means it has a high tannin content. Also, if you have like gastrointestinal issues, it'll hurt your stomach.
This one for a Paso cab is actually juicier.
This one's juicier. So this one, the flavor notes that I get are like black cherry and like currants, maybe like some strawberries, like red fruits.
I would probably push a little bit more. Now, none of us are sommeliers, and we're not trying to sound super douchey, but there are some very strong flavors in this one. The big one that I'm picking up is actually plum.
Yeah, I can see
There's
plum.
a very strong plum, but there's also that apricot flavor.
Yeah,
getting a lot of leather too,
which I think is where you can't get away from leather in cabs. Like Cabernet is just going to give you a leather tone, and then
leather, sandalwood, all that kind of
stuff.
stuff.
And then the oak introduction is going to give you that forest floor, that wet wood.
Yeah, I had a buddy who's a level 2 som.
Jesus,
and he worked for a winery or a wine bar, and I would go visit him, and he'd be like, "What do you want?" I was like, "I want dirt and cherries. That's what I want in my glass." So he would just be like, "All right, here you go."
Well, it's interesting that you were saying those flavors because 2019 in California was a very wet season. So that is going to change the taste of your wine. Paso Robles sits on a limestone bedrock. So that's going to change it. It's going to compare it to like Napa in 2019 because it's on a volcanic sediment. It's going to be very different. But also, depending on when these grapes were picked, in October of that year, there was giant wildfires in California. So
that year?
2019.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it was California.
In October.
Yeah, it was that year.
Yeah, all the years.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a slightly shit on California podcast with Justin?
I'll shit on California anytime you want me to.
So depending on when these grapes were picked, if it was picked before the fires or maybe like after the fires, it'd be really interesting to see where their vines were sitting in relation to the fires to see how that would, like the charcoal would change the flavor of the wine.
Yeah, a little bit of smoke or something too.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love wine. Like I need to drink a lot more of it.
When it comes down to like when people talk about, oh, it was this year versus that year of wine and da-da-da-da-da, and you kind of go like, why the fuck does that matter?
No,
like,
it does. It matters an insane amount.
It matters, and the reason it matters is like everything that Caitlin just talked about, which is right before harvest season, they had wildfires. That's going to impact what is going on heat-wise and all that kind of stuff. It was a really wet year, which means that there was more water that got pumped into the grape. So you can actually end up with a fatter grape and a higher yield, but a fatter grape and higher yield is also going to have a less intense flavor because you have more water in the fruit. So when you're looking at, well, this vintage versus that year, or I like this year more than I like that year, and those are all the reasons that everybody talks about the year. Now, when
And
you're
also
really
it's varietal,
educated
too.
and you can follow all of that kind of stuff, it matters. When you go to Red Lobster and you order something off the list and they come and poorly present you a bottle and go like, well, this is the 2017 barefoot whatever, that doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Like that, nobody cares.
Sure.
They're dumping every grape they can find in the top of a hopper and waiting for it to
yeah.
ferment and then bottling that shit out.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't matter.
but if you find a region that you like, I'm not going to lie, I could tell you very little about wine from most of the rest of the world.
Mm.
Paso wine, I'm pretty good at.
Oh, good. Okay, cool.
But I really like the wines out of that region. And so I know the varietals I like out of that region. I know the years that I like from that region. Like I know what I like there. And then I can get pretty safe. You're always super safe with South American wines. Their weather is so damn consistent. Shitty, but
Yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
That their wine is almost always going to taste the same. And
South
then
African wines have been
And Australia.
wines.
I can't afford any of the stuff out of Australia that's actually good.
Yeah.
Well, because it's
Yeah.
strictly like lot 42 and like pinners and shit. I can't afford that.
Yeah, yeah.
Pinfolds, whatever it is. I can't buy $3,000 bottles of wine. Like it's not.
What?
Yeah.
It's not your thing?
No.
Yeah.
And
This game store hasn't done it yet.
South African is, for me, it's too sweet. South Africa just produces really, really sweet wine. I just can't do it. But the French wines, I have started to learn what regions I like stuff from. So I can kind of look at where is it and then go like, okay. Because you hear about really famous ones like Chateau Neuf de Pop and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There is a label that is just called Chateau Neuf de Pop. And they're insanely expensive. Like the year they release, they will be $8,000 to $10,000 bottles. The year it releases, if it says Chateau Neuf de Pop on the label, like if that's all it says. But it's also because that winery has been there so long, it's also become synonymous with the region.
Okay.
So I can't buy that label,
Right.
but I can buy his neighbor's wine.
Yeah, his label adjacent. Yeah.
And so I can get the stuff
Yeah.
that his neighbor makes, and his neighbor is about 90% of the way there. So
Which is funny
Yeah,
you say
what can you
that.
do?
So I lived in
Yeah.
so when I lived in France, I went on a full tour of wine to multiple different types of vineyards, different regions. And I went to Chateau Neuf de Pop and I got to try wine there. And I brought back 4 bottles because they were €50. And
Okay,
there's
that's not that bad,
no
yeah.
way I could afford that
Yeah.
in the United States.
Yeah.
So like I took advantage while I was there because obviously you're not paying like the import, you're not paying for the name, you're just buying it straight from the vineyard, and it's always going to be cheaper if you're buying it straight from the vineyard
Yeah,
and
yeah.
supporting them directly
Yeah,
versus
they love
buying it
that.
through a Total Wine and More or Twins Liquor.
well, I
or
guarantee you
whatever.
they had the $8,000 bottles too.
Oh, they did.
But the thing is that when that winery decides what they're going to bottle, they're checking it, and there's going to be stuff that they go like, that gets to wear the white label. That's
That
going on the
doesn't-
shelf.
yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go into wine guides. It doesn't maintain the reputation of our winery. It doesn't. That's not the show pony.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that doesn't get the white label. That gets, it'll say like CNDP or some shit on it. Like it won't have the white label with the fancy script in the house. Like it's not that one. But it did come out of the same cellar.
Yeah, it did all the
Yeah.
same stuff.
And
It's the
so-
same thing like where I'm from, which is the Bay Area. We had one of our biggest ones was we get a lot of ridge wines.
Uh-huh.
Like we just drink because they're like down the road from us, and it's really fun to be like, yeah, I can go up there and get buy a bottle from them for $100, and then you like look at it on retail, and it's like, oh no, that's a $600-$700 bottle. of
Well,
wine.
and that's anything, right?
Yeah,
So
that's just a lot of fun to be able to.
if anytime
to
you
do
can,
that kind of
if you can
stuff.
buy it
Yeah.
straight from the manufacturer, it will always be cheaper. Because
and it's a great experience.
if
too.
the winery can sell it to you for $100, but then the winery to get it onto a store shelf,
yeah,
they have to sell it to a distributor. Well, they need to, so they're going to sell it to the distributor for $100. Well, that distributor needs to mark it up so that they can sell it to the grocery store or the liquor store that's going to carry it. and it's wine, so they don't just do it a little bit.
They do it a lot of bit.
So it'll be like the distributor will mark it up 50% from what they paid for it at the winery. And then the liquor store has to pay the 50% markup to the
Plus another
distributor
50.
who already marked it up 50%. So they're going to pay that, and then they're going to take that and they're going to mark it up 50% to stick it on the shelf.
Mhm.
So, and then heaven forbid that you buy it at a restaurant,
Don't ever buy wine at a restaurant.
because that's about a 300 or 400% markup. So what started as $100 bottle of wine, it's how you see wines on the shelf and they're $80, and all of a sudden you can go to that winery and buy it for $9, and you're
Yeah.
like, how the fuck?
Or
And
it's also-
like,
it's
well,
also-
there's not four hands in the middle. Like there's
Yeah. And it's also fun, like seeing wines that you, like for me, like my parents would drink a lot of wine, and seeing the wines that they would drink as like they're just normal table wine, like Pump Jack and stuff like that, Frog's Leap, and that kind of stuff. All of a sudden, Decoy was one of them. Like we just had bottles of Decoy. It was no big deal back in like the early
Decoy's
90s.
still not bad.
Yeah, but
Decoy,
like
you
in the
can-
early 90s, or in the late 90s, it was not that big, and then all of a sudden it became like this fucking thing. And now you can get high core,
Well, so
like Decoy.
Decoy in
and,
the grocery store, I think, is right now, when I just saw it, is actually on sale for $25 a bottle.
really? Is that all it is now?
Decoy's usually a little less than that.
That's 25, and then Duckhorn.
Now,
Duckhorn. That was Duckhorn.
Duckhorn is a
Duckhorn is the
different
one I'm
animal than
thinking, yeah.
Decoy.
It was Duckhorn because they're the
Same
same
house.
winery.
and all
Yes.
of that comes out of Camus.
Yeah. And
Which-
so we would do the Camus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Camus
so we
is
would,
there. That's exactly what I was talking about with Chateauneuf de Pape.
Yeah.
The stuff that's not good enough to be Camus becomes Duckhorn, and the stuff that's not good enough to be Duckhorn becomes Decoy.
Yeah, yeah. So
and
I'm
so
sorry.
it trickles down.
Yeah, I get confused. But yeah, we would have like Duckhorn and Camus in like the late 90s, and it was no big deal. I'm like,
Because
it
they
was
were
expensive.
young.
Yeah, they're young.
Yeah.
And now they're like fucking.
Now they've
They're
been around a
like
couple
the big
decades, and all of a
boys.
sudden it's
yeah, it's like the
but they
same
make
wine.
fuck, they make good wine.
Good wine.
But I will
They make
say,
great wine.
Duckhorn, Decoy, the Camus line,
Camus.
fantastic wines. I'd probably say for a California wine, those would be like my top picks.
Yeah.
But I will say that the price of a wine doesn't decide if it's a good or a bad wine.
Nope.
Because I have had
No,
really
yeah.
shitty
Mm-hmm.
$60, $70, $100 bottle of wine. And I've had really good like $7 bottle of wine or $9. Like 19 Crimes, their cab, it's
Yeah.
Australian. Great table wine. I could drink that all day.
Yeah.
Easy sipping.
It's like wine prices are like the stock market.
Very much, yeah.
Yeah. It kind of goes up and down, and it changes based on notoriety and what they're doing.
But also
recently.
completely depends on how big that house is. And the smaller the house is, the more they like to charge.
yeah.
And somehow the wine world is very much guilty of like, oh, it's expensive, it's got to be good. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
eh.
Not
that's
very
that's
true.
why I'm saying it's like, it's stock market. You know, it
Yeah,
could
it's kind of bullshit. Because like I like Bogle, and you can buy Bogle for like $8,
Bogle's
Bogle's
good.
good.
and you just buy Bogle cab, sit there, watch Netflix, drink it out of a coffee cup. It's fucking awesome.
I love drinking out of a pint
I will
glass.
say,
I love drinking.
Dude, I love
out of
wine in a
pint glass.
coffee cup, man.
No.
With the handle.
no, no. I will say, also with wine, probably similar to actually beer, because you have different types of glassware, that
Beer in a coffee cup.
depending on your quality of
Beer in a
glassware,
wine glass.
it will change the taste of your wine.
That's
So if you're
that's
drinking
that
out
is
of a
true. That
Rydell
is true.
glass, because Rydell is like the top
these
of the line,
though.
it's
So
gonna
you brought
taste
these in
different.
from your personal collection. These are great. So these are kind of known as like the universal wine glass.
Yeah, that's why I grabbed them.
They have that a little bit of that tulip shape, but they still have the big belly on them, so you can put big fat reds in them, and they still open up, and you get all that aroma. But then they have that tulip shape if you're drinking whites and stuff like that. You can. So these are
still-
kind of the universe. If you get yourself one set of good wine glasses,
Buy good wine. Buy a good beer glasses, martini glasses, and wine glasses.
But start with the wine glasses, because almost all beer you can get away with just stick it in a pint glass.
that's true. Yeah.
If you can get to where you have like goblets and all that stuff too, more power to you. But you can get away with a pint glass for almost everything. Wine though, find yourself a universal set. There's a really good company, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like $60 for two of them, which admittedly is a little pricey.
Yeah. It feels pricey.
But if you don't wash them in your apartment fucking dishwasher and don't let your kids finger fuck them, you will have them for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and you pull them out when you need them.
And they will make your wine taste better. I'm not going to lie. A okay wine in the right glass will taste better. but a really expensive wine in a shit glass will destroy the wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with what you can smell while you're drinking. So as much as I like to white trash it up and drink Bogle from a coffee cup,
Yeah,
the
there
glass
is some.
does matter.
The glass does matter, and
The
it
glass
always
does
has.
matter.
Yeah,
Wine especially.
yeah.
The rest of it is also like good martini glasses and all that stuff. It's the experience. Those
And that's-
glasses just
yeah.
feel different.
It feels nice. It
and
feels
it
like
just yeah.
yeah.
So
It feels like a special thing that you.
and by the way, if you own nice wine glasses, knowing that the wine is going to go away, you at least still have something nice after you just like drink away $100.
It's like a
so
souvenir. So what Jazz means by opening it up is getting air into it. So you can either do it by, swishing it around your glass. If you want to get a good decanter,
yeah,
get a rabbit.
a Rabbit decanter. They're a great brand.
Fuck it. Get a
Very
rabbit.
affordable.
Stick it in the top of the bottle.
Yep.
You're going to pour it. It's going to make a little whistle sound. And it's going to aerate it as it's pouring in. Just get a rabbit.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
They're
easy.
like $8 at every liquor store you can go to. It looks like a fucked up cork. And
Yeah,
it just
it
goes in
does
the
it fine.
top and you
It
pour
does
it.
it fine.
But it will aerate your wine.
Mm-hmm.
It will make it taste better. It's good shit. So
And use those in reds. Like, don't use it in a white wine. That's just weird.
fucking white wine, you stick it in the fridge.
White wine, you don't need to open up. Reds,
White wine is almost vinegar.
maybe the next one we'll do a white wine and
White
and
wine,
talk.
right, right.
But for tasting a wine, as we close this out, you have your wine in your glass. You're gonna put your nose inside of it and take a big sniff
Oh, what's a big old sniff?
with your nose.
Put your schnoz in there.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna kind of just like let that aroma kind of sit inside your nasal cavities, and it's gonna go down to the back of your throat.
It's called warming your palate.
Warming your palate. When you shake it around, you'll start seeing some drips down the side of your glass. Those are called legs. It'll kind of give you a indication of the alcohol content in your wine.
This wine actually has thick old getaway sticks.
The longer and the more legs you have, which are the drips on the side of your glass, the more
Getaway
alcohol.
sticks. I get on my getaway sticks.
I'm
gonna
trying
use
to
that.
educate.
I'm gonna use that in my baseball game tomorrow.
Getaway
Or on
sticks.
Saturday.
Move your getaway sticks.
Get your move away sticks.
Anyway, the length and however many getaway sticks you get on the side of your glass determines the alcohol content. Lots of sticks, lots of drag will mean it's a higher alcohol content. So you're going to get really fucked up if you drink the whole bottle by yourself.
It's also a good indicator of tannins.
A good indicator of tannins. And then you're going to put it in your mouth and you're going to slurp it and like allow the air to open it up.
See, like this one's big. She got fat ass.
She got big getaway sticks.
It starts with good getaway sticks and finishes with a fat ass.
And that's how you taste wine. If you go to a wine flight tasting, start with the whites, end with the reds, or you're just going to be in a bad way.
And tell them that you like the fat ass on that cab.
Oh my
Walk
gosh.
up, look at him, and be like, I want dirt and cherries. Fill the glass.
Yeah.
I was so excited to teach everyone, and it's just I
You
hope this
did,
was
but
good.
I had to warhammer it up a little
I
bit because you were
know.
getting a
Yeah.
little formal.
I'm sorry, I like wine.
I
do
love
too.
wine.
I love wine.
wine.
I'm
I love
actually
take it
now that
so
we've started
seriously.
here, we're actually we're going as a little micro crew. After this, over to one of our favorite spots here in
Yeah,
town.
yeah.
I'm thinking I might actually do wine there tonight instead
do
of
wine with you.
instead of
would love to smoke.
because
I
we
would
usually do brown liquor over
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I would love to do wine.
I think
Let's
we might
keep with
do.
it.
I think we might do wine tonight. Got it started now.
Yeah. They
I'm gonna be over there and be like,
Behringer or
I'm
something.
like,
Yeah,
I bet you they have some okay stuff. If the list sucks, then we'll switch
we'll
over
figure
to
it out.
whiskey. But
I'm like, if they have like a nice petite Syrah or something like that.
oh my god,
Yeah,
does your boyfriend know you drink that?
yeah. I love
Petite
petite
Syrah?
Syrahs. I love petite Syrahs.
You know what the wine I hate?
Not Syrahs, petite Syrahs.
You know what I hate?
Port.
Well, I don't count that as a wine. But
I despise port.
I
And
love port,
You
too.
can't. You.
It's
I
gross.
love port. I love port.
it just tastes like raisins.
I love it. I drink it like
Who hurt you, sir?
just a lot of people.
I don't like
A lot of people.
Tempranillos.
Oh yeah, those are shit wines.
I don't like Tempranillos.
Oh, those are shit wines.
I'm trying to think of any Spanish varietals I like at all.
Oh, I hate temper.
I don't think I like Spanish varietals
Oh,
at
they're
all.
fucking
But I know I don't
terrible.
like Tempranillos.
Suck.
Yeah. Every Tempranillo I've ever had was people were like, "Oh, you have to let it age." It's like, "Fuck you, it sucks."
No, it just sucks.
Rosé.
Oh yeah, no shit.
Yeah,
That shit. Oh god, it's just
just sugar bombs.
the look of the bottle gives me a headache. Let alone the sugar that's in it. Like I
Yeah.
just see it and I'm like, that's
Sugar
Yeah,
bombs.
don't want nothing to do with that
yeah.
blush.
Can't do rosés. Or before they were rosés, it was a blush.
Yeah, it was a blush.
Like that's what
Yeah.
everybody calls it. Like it was a blush.
Yeah.
That's what my grandmother used to drink in the 80s.
Right.
It was blush.
Yeah, from a box.
Then all of a sudden it became rosé. And it was
Yeah.
like,
and it's rosé all day.
nope.
Anyway, if you guys want to try the wine that we tried today,
what is this?
It's Gunsight Rock.
From Paso.
It is. I think it was like $14 a bottle
From
the HEB.
It's good.
Paso Robles.
From Paso Robles.
Yeah. Do you know what else is from Paso? Firestone Walker, one of the best breweries in the world.
They're not bad. They're not.
Good. They're really good.
God, they're trying hard for me to carry them, and I'm like, you're not from Texas.
All right, that's my chateau. Thank you.
No, that's great. It was a great chateau.
I enjoyed
walked around.
visiting your
It was a lot.
chateau.
I enjoyed the tapestries. They had lovely
Thank you.
art on the wall.
We
Did
just
you
never
see
done wine, so there's like a lot of education
No,
to get out of the
absolutely.
way.
Did you see the Chase Lounge in the hallway?
The Shaw's Lounge.
Yeah, the Shays.
The Shaw's.
The Shays Lounge.
Oh, you just did it, huh? You just took all of it?
Well, we both poured more glasses while she was teaching. So
Yeah, you both got two glasses.
Fuck you. Those are both mine. Just
So,
no, I'm looking over here, just trying to be polite. And also just like, glug 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 glug. Fuck you.
Dude, I love wine.
we both poured 2 glasses.
I did.
before
No,
she
yeah,
got
no,
here,
no.
so
I'm
it's
understanding.
all
I'm
good.
giving you shit.
Yeah. I do
what are we
like
talking-
I do like Cabernets though.
I
and,
love cabs.
Maybe we'll
Wine.
do a Merlot next and talk about why
I'm not
Merlot's
drinking
different.
any fucking Merlot.
No,
Okay, if I bring in
I'll give you Malbec.
if
We're
I
not
bring
doing
in
Merlot.
Duckhorn Merlot, that is the best
Actually,
Duckhorn
yeah, it's
varietal
pretty
there
good.
is.
The decoy Merlot is actually pretty good too.
But yeah, but I think Duckhorn and Decoy Cab is
Do you know why I
very
don't like
lacking.
Merlot? It's boring.
it's not boring.
It's not that it's bad. It's just boring. It's just like you just drink it. You're like, that's grapes.
Yeah, but it's also from that movie Sideways. Where he was just like, you ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh, it's a great wine movie.
You haven't seen that?
Oh yeah, he was like, I'm not drinking any fucking
Paul
Merlot.
It's Paul Giamatti
Paul
and the guy
Giamatti.
from
Oh.
Wings.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
all I remember him
Yeah,
from. Is
he's
the,
great. He's a
the
great that
mechanic
guy.
from
No.
Wings.
Yeah.
I can remember the DVD title. Oh my god, the movie poster or the Blu-ray.
Yeah, the sketch of the
Yeah,
of the
I
wine
got
bottle.
that.
That's
But there is a great TV show if you like watching shows about wine. Obviously, all the educational documentaries are great, but there is a drama called Drops of God.
Okay, any good?
Very
it's
good.
phenomenal.
Really? I need to
It's-
watch
It's
it.
based on a
Really-
manga,
That's really good.
but it's so good.
Manga
it's-
wine.
Manga wine.
yeah, it's really really good.
Highly
And then the
recommend.
Somm documentary, SOMM. If
Yeah,
you've
that
never
was
seen
really,
that,
really
go
good.
watch that.
Yeah,
That's fucking
really good.
awesome. Anyways, do you know who doesn't give a fuck about wine?
Not a shit.
Sharks.
Sharks don't like wine.
And that's what we're talking about today is fucking space sharks. So,
Oh, I'm so excited.
So we decided
So excited.
we've
I
covered a
love
lot
the
of
space
we've
sharks.
covered a lot of the big factions. Like we've talked about
Yeah.
like Space Marines and we've talked about Necrons. We've talked about that stuff.
We should for like getting into spooky season do a couple of the spooky
The spookier ones.
the spookier ones like
And-
the Carcharodons are one of the spookies.
So that's their other name is the Carcharodons.
Carcharodon Astra if you are high gothic.
I think it's actually Astra Carcharodon.
Whatever.
Whatever. Anyways,
Wave
space
up.
sharks.
Space sharks.
Sharks.
Shark. Shark bait. Ooh ah ah.
Yeah.
Ooh, ah, ah.
But the space sharks, the Carcharodons, they are a chapter
Yes.
of the Space Marines. They are from the void.
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna lie. When you were talking about space sharks earlier with me, when you were like, "This is what we're gonna talk about on the podcast,"
Yeah.
I was imagining little sharks in Space Marine outfits. Just so you know where my mind went.
You're
It's
not
okay.
you're not wrong.
That's why I was like,
You're
street
not
sharks. I
wrong.
don't
Okay.
care.
Well, so to kick that off,
Yeah.
let's talk about what the space sharks even look like before we go into the rest of it. So the space sharks,
the modern space sharks is what we're going to
the modern space sharks, and the space sharks, their whole thing is that they prowl the black ocean, the deepest parts of space, where those that would threaten the Imperium view as their position of power. Those are the depths of darkness that the Carcharodon
So they are
prowl.
they basically they do not. So the Astronomicum, which we've talked about before, which is the light of the Emperor, which everyone guides
but
to.
the space sharks refer to that as the Astronomicon.
Nom, 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 nom. Anyway, only projects light for so far away. The Carcharodons, what they do is they go beyond that light, and they're out in the wilderness, basically, of the galaxy, and just is like we're out here, and we are fucking up anybody that moves.
They're deep in the black ocean.
If you look at me sideways, I will fuck you up and
true.
everybody you have.
Hold on. So you're telling me
They're like the first line of defense.
this is a new faction?
No. So that's the other, we're going to get into that.
yeah,
There's a
well,
lot of stuff about that.
I feel a debate coming on.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Okay. So to do a throwback, if you will, a setback, that would mean
I almost died.
I know.
that one of the reality TV shows in the Imperium would be Shark Week.
I would love to see Shark Week. Okay. So the Carcharodons, and I'm just going to go out there, they have they don't know where they come from. They're very mysterious on their thing, but they have hinted at that they are a Raven Guard successor.
They're part of the
chapter.
19th. Yeah. So the claim is
this is what it is.
they're part of the 19th chapter. Now, almost everything that they know about their downline is from the Death Watch. So
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that you want to believe.
Yeah.
But then you have to look at the Red Wake,
Oh
the
my God.
chapter master
Tiberius.
The
The
Red Wake.
Slade Lord.
He's the Herald
Lord.
of Shade or
No,
whatever
he's
it
the
is.
Shade Lord.
Oh, the Shade Lord. That's
Shade
right.
Lord. That's
you
his
have to,
official title,
so-
Red Wake. Yeah.
before we get into, let's just look at him, and then we'll talk about what we think the downline is, like
Yeah.
where they actually come from. So this dude is so goddamn massive that when people have met him, they thought it was a statue of a Terminator. But it turns out it was him just sitting still.
That's a big guy.
Yeah, he's like the size of he's slightly less than a dreadnought.
So there's actually story
Is he the
about
size of that orc that everyone thought he was
the
just
Prime
a
Orc.
statue?
No, the
Yeah.
Prime Orc was
Bigger.
like 18
Okay.
feet tall or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, so he wears Terminator armor. But there are parts of his Terminator armor. He is so big that there are parts of his Terminator armor that they had to borrow from a dreadnought
Yeah, to
to
make it
mount
work.
on him.
Yeah.
That's a big
He's got
guy.
He's
got
fucking
two
huge.
open maws on each shoulder pad.
Mhm.
And then his helm is also like the triple lined teeth
yeah.
of what would come out of like a great shark, like
And
a
his-
great white.
Uh-huh.
But he's supposed to be like 10 and a half feet tall or something.
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
something
it's
huge.
Huge.
And he doesn't have any ranged weapons. Fuck you in the ranged weapons.
No, because he's got each arm has a power weapon on it, but it's a combination of a power fist, lightning claws,
yeah.
and a
chain fist
chain fist.
Yeah.
That's all been
meshed into each other.
meshed into one just
And the name
horrific.
of him, he's got his right hand is named Hunger, and his right hand is named Slake.
It's Slake and Hunger,
Slake
left
and
and
Hunger.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And but it's all custom made.
All I can think of is the Ragnarok, Thor Ragnarok, and he's like, "This is Dis, and this is Troy. I got him from a place called Texas."
It's pretty close, actually.
I feel like that's
not
how
that
you would
far
come
off.
Not
in.
even wrong.
Yeah, it's not even wrong. You know what? I think he actually sounds like that too. I think it just sounds like Carl Urban from Thor Ragnarok.
Such a chameleon.
He is. He's a gift.
I started listing everything that Carl Urban was in for Caitlin, and she was like, "He's not in that." And I was like,
Yes, he is.
"Check it."
And then I checked it, and I was like, "Holy shit, that is Carl
Then
Urban."
we started going back and watching some of these movies, and she was like,
I was like, "There he
"Fuck
is."
me,
There he
like,
is.
Yeah,
Because I didn't know he was in Lord of the Rings. I didn't know he
Yeah.
played that dude in Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Éomer.
Because what was the most recent thing that we saw? And I was like, wow, he's a great actor. Like, he must be
Boys.
brand new. Yeah, the boy.
Yep. Yep.
He's the
in
main
Boys.
character.
I was
in
like,
The Boys.
he must be a new actor. Like,
No,
he's
was
so
Judge-
good.
he was
Carl
Judge
Urban. He was
Dredd.
Judge Dredd.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I've seen that movie.
Because every time he plays a character, you just see the character. Like
Yeah.
you no longer see Carl Urban. Yeah, fantastic.
Such
anyway,
a chameleon.
there you go. I'm going to put that out there. If the Carcharodons are part of the live action, Carl Urban gets to be.
Yeah.
I would take Carl
Just
Urban as Tiberius.
Anything. Yeah. Anything. You put him
So-
on there, I believe you.
But Tiberius, when you look at him and the way he fights and how quick to anger he is and his kind of chosen aesthetic, there's some argument for the fact that there's a little bit of Night Lord in there.
Yes.
A
There's
little
a
bit,
huge
little bit of
amount.
World Eater in there.
A lot of better than that. Yeah.
And I would say
Yep. I understand.
because of the zealotry that they have for the Emperor,
being loyal, like they're
beyond loyal, there's arguably a little bit of Ultramarine in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, that being said, so I don't. My opinion,
Mhm.
they don't have a
lineage.
true chapter downline. I think there's been so much gene seed corruption
Yeah, I believe that.
of shit just getting slammed together.
Right.
Which actually brings us to the red tithe.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about a little about bringing it back to their beginnings.
The downline. Oh,
The
where they
downline.
came from.
So there was the way that people think that it's the Raven Lords, the Raven Guard, was that before Corvix became part of the Raven Guard, they were extremely violent. They were extremely cruel in the way they did war. That was like part of their thing. They were
the 19th was
their 19th was like shock troops, like on the level of not as hardcore, but as like the Night Lords. And when Korvax came in, he's like, no, you can't do that. There's talk about how there were some people that were just like, no, this is what we do. And Korvax was just like, fucking deuces.
The 19th was far closer to the World Eaters.
Yeah.
Like the original Raven Guard was far closer to the World Eaters.
Pre-Corvus.
Pre-Corvus. Pre-Corvus was far closer to the World Eaters.
And so what happened, what people are saying is that when most of the Primarchs met their Legion, they spliced some of the Terran and some people out to fit them into their vision.
And we know that Corvus, he purged Terran bloodline out of his
aggressively.
It was just like, no, we don't do Terran here. Yeah. Like we do new stuff, or you're from Deliverance. That's fucking it. Like we don't let Terran.
And so one thing is like he probably
Deliverance
sent this chapter.
is Corvus Corax's home world.
Yeah,
by the way.
But if so there's just talk about how what he probably did was he met these guys and they're like, all right, look, you got two choices. You either go die in battle, or you can be exiled to the outer thing, and you guys do your own thing and don't come back.
Well, and so supposedly, and
that's where the idea comes from.
Carcharodon canon is really hard. They've gotten a couple books, but they don't really talk about their history. It's just kind of like,
it's supposed to be muddled.
Hey, look at what the shit they're doing right now. And it's supposed to be lost because they're out in the dark and they're supposed to be very mysterious and very, very scary.
Very Raven Guard. In terms of mysteriousness.
Supposedly, I can't remember the dude's name, who was he was the chapter master. He was the chapter master before Corix. Like he was the guy that was in charge of the Legion.
Oh,
and then Corvus came on.
Yeah.
And essentially he took him from being like chapter master and made him like a sergeant. He was like,
he just dropped him like
and
a rock.
So they took all of the non-deliverance guys, all the guys that he didn't bring, like the original people of the 19th, and made them go like escort rogue trader ships and like do shit, like just absolute
bullshit
work.
Yeah.
And demoted them all, like took like average officers, made them line guys. The highest ranking officers were all made like sergeants, and then shipped them off to go do just absolute shit work for
nothing.
For nothing.
And so that's also where this was like, probably like one of these guys came to him and just exile us. Just send us out, past Astronomicon, and we're on our own.
And that's kind of the thing is like, so they went off and then just kind of got lost.
Yeah.
Like they just got forgotten about.
Well,
now
they're roaming the deeps.
They're roaming the deeps.
All right. So back to the Red Tides.
So the reason that I think this tradition of the Red Tithe that we now know from 40K, obviously this wasn't like just a new idea. Like it was. Yeah. So the Red Tithe comes from they will take people to rebuild their ranks from systems that they liberate. So they show up and they're like, hey, we saved you from, what's their three? Traitors, aliens, and heretics?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Traitors, aliens, and it's not heretic.
And mutants?
Traitors, alien, and... Because it's actually not demons. Like, it's not warp creatures. It's like... Yeah. It's just the stuff in our universe that would fuck with mankind. They're no, fuck you. We're bringing the light of the Emperor at the edge of a sword. Like they're
hardcore.
It's traitors, aliens, and something. Anyways, so like if one of those is going on, they show up and they liberate your planet and they go, hey, look, we lost some dudes
Yes.
And we also lost the guy that carries my helmet.
And his guy who carries his helmet.
And the guy that carries my guy's helmet. And our chef. And so
and a couple gun crews.
some
And
gun
it's just we
crews.
have a list. We have a list.
Janitorial's looking a little weak right now.
Renegade.
Traitor Alien Renegade. Those are the
things that they say.
that they fucking hate. Anything that would be that's not human or would go against humans, they're not fucking here for.
They're not
Yeah,
here
here's
for
the
it.
quote. To ravage the foes of mankind and to set about the traitor, the alien, and the renegade without mercy and harrow them in their places of strength.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
Kinda scary.
Carcharodon.
space sharks.
Space sharks are dope.
I thought you guys were joking about the space shark thing, and then it literally says, like, in parentheses, space shark.
Space shark. Yeah, it's Astra Carcharodon, the space shark. I'm getting all sorts of bad ideas listening to this, so we're gonna keep talking.
Anyway, so
because I'm sitting there going like, man, I got a lot of Marines that aren't painted right now.
but they're hard to make as an army
No, they're not.
Why?
because the motif is harder to make.
It's
There's a lot
gray
of-
with a shark on their pauldron.
but they also have a lot of Maori kind of like imagery
It's on their skin.
on their skin. Yeah.
Which a
It's on their
space marine wears armor. You can't see
It's
their
on their skin. We'll get to that.
Okay, fine.
The hardest part would be the helmets,
Yeah. The aesthetics.
but anyway.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so the red tithe is that they essentially going like, so some of y'all some bitches coming with us. They're like, well, and it's like, look, did you just see what we did to the people that already enslaved you?
Yeah, we didn't like. Do you want to be someone we don't like?
Like, so how about we take a couple people, couple quick 10,000,
Yeah.
and then we'll leave, and we'll go.
But the best part is they like, okay, we're gonna leave, and then as they load up their ships to get out of there and everything, they go like, oh, by the way, we'll be back in 50 years.
Yeah, it's like a yeah.
Bye.
So the red tithe is essentially from all the planets that they've liberated, they now view as like their protectorate.
And they can just come back and they're just like, they roll up and they're like, we need 50,000 people.
Yep.
I don't care who the fuck
They come
you
back in
send.
50 years. That's like a whole new generation at that point.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. Their zealotry and passion for the Imperium, they also like instill into these planets that they free, and they're so thankful for being freed that the planets then start training their young to be good enough to become
Yeah.
space
Carcharodons,
sharks.
yeah.
And like so all of these planets that they free, they essentially, unlike most chapters that have like a home planet and that's where they're trained, these guys have like seeded all of these worlds. Now,
And they're all at the edge of the empire, so they barely
they're
ever get
way out
any-
in the fringe.
They ever get any
It's
love.
very Viking to seed territory.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it is. But it's like so these guys, like, if you're on this planet, like, that's who we got to call. Like, we don't see the military, we don't see anybody.
call these
They don't
guys.
come fucking out here.
Now, here's the deal, though, is that who they free these planets from, a lot of them have chapters. They're renegade chapters, or they're Black Legion chapters, or because there are other renegade chapters that aren't Black Legion. Like they lost
Yeah.
communication with the Imperium, and now they're just doing their own fucking thing.
Yeah.
And so, but they've been doing that, and they've been farming their own stuff in here. So that's where I think the gene seed corruption starts coming in.
Yeah.
And why you see these other chapters that are influencing this
Yeah.
thing. And I also think it's one of the other big traits of the space sharks, which is they are salvagers.
Yes, they are.
These dudes, anything and everything that get their hands on that they think they could trade to Mars to get,
Yeah. Because
Equipment
that's
or
now
tanks
gray
or-
tithe.
that's the gray tithe. Any salvage they find,
Yeah.
that's just theirs.
So they're out in the outer dark and they go to these planets and they take they take over a planet, they liberate it, and then they go through and they're like, hey, you got some cool shit here, stuff we've never seen. They throw it in the back of a truck, keep it there, and then every 20 years or something like that, envoys from Mars comes in and be like, hey, yeah, we would like to see something. Like, hey, we got some pretty cool shit that you guys didn't even know existed anymore.
Yeah.
We need about 40 Terminator armors. We need about 100 Land Raiders.
Yep.
We need
And these
couple, and then
guys-
maybe another ship. And then they're like, yeah, because they have like the Xeno architect or Xeno technology that they have.
What
Archaeotech.
Archaeotech or whatever.
Archaeotech that they've never seen, that they're like, yes, this is beyond value.
And
the
so-
space sharks, they don't give a fuck.
The space sharks will hunt down Archaeotech to give back to Mars. And then Mars is like,
Whatever you want.
yeah, okay, you need tanks? Fucking here's tanks.
Yeah, you want another spaceship? You want a
But
cruiser?
they
Here's a
don't
cruiser.
requisition anything directly from the Imperium. They're just like pawn shopping shit to fucking Mars.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's just like,
That's really
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Well, they don't
no one
need it.
knows that they're out there.
But
That's
that
so
being
funny.
said, and these guys are going like, we will salvage and use
Everything.
whatever we need to continue our fight because they are on the internal crusade until the lost one returns.
Who's the lost one?
Nobody fucking knows.
They think it's the Emperor.
Nope.
No.
The Emperor is the sire of the lost one.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I can tell you who the lost one is then.
What? Who is it?
Horus.
It's not Horus.
Why wouldn't it be?
Why is everything Horus with you?
Why wouldn't it be?
She's got a point.
Why
She got a
wouldn't
good
it be
point.
Horus? Tell me
Could be-
why.
It could be Horus.
Yeah.
Or
Mostly
it's
everyone else
it's
is
one of the
dead.
two lost legions. That's the
But,
other thing is everyone keeps on talking about.
Yeah.
But apparently they just kind of like, that's the other thing is like, they don't follow rank structure or heraldry, the Codex Astartes, none of that shit.
No
they don't
shit.
give a
Don't give a fuck.
A
Lot of chaplains, a lot of librarians.
But
too.
because of who don't go to the front line because they're too valuable, so they keep them in the back, and then they.
Yeah, they don't fight.
Well, yeah, because like librarians
fight.
are healers, aren't they?
No, apothecaries are.
Oh, that's right.
But they don't let them on the battlefield because they're too valuable. So
It's like you die, you die.
but they salvage everything.
Yeah,
So you get in a fight with some other Space Marines, you just leaving that gene seed around?
No.
it's my gene seed.
It's my gene seed now.
I found it.
motherfucker. I'm fucking
I
taking it.
find it. It's mine.
I imagine they get the gene seed out of Space Marines like the little sisters get the stuff out of the Bioshock people.
Actually, you're not wrong. It's
Where they
this-
take like this giant syringe and they pull
no,
out.
it is.
Like,
It's a
That's
it's a
exactly
syringe
it.
on a pistol, and it literally
That's
it goes up
exactly
against
it.
their
And
chest,
it,
and they
like-
go whap, and it drills in,
There you go.
and then it like
Spreads
opens it up, and it pulls this nutsack looking thing out,
Yeah.
and
And then it gets
it's similar.
inserted into a canister of like,
And then it
and
gets-
freezes.
then it gets
Yeah.
put in a fucking thermos.
That's very similar to Bioshock then.
yeah.
yeah,
They
but no,
put it-
Carcharodons are cool because they're 100% white, like they're completely pale, eyes are completely black.
Yeah, they're described as deathly pale with eyes as dark as the abyss in which they roam.
Reminds me of that.
What?
That reminds me of that the character on Naruto that is the shark guy.
The shark guy?
The
Or the
shark
snake
guy
guy?
on the shark guy on Naruto has like a bat that's like a shark. It has like a mouth and it eats things, but he's like super pale and he has black eyes.
What the fuck?
Yeah, what
Sorry.
the fuck are you talking about?
In all
I'm
fairness, everything that
finding
we
a
just
lot-
said isn't,
Yeah, it's just-
isn't
it's just
any
made no
less
fucking
weird.
sense, yeah. Yeah,
Sorry.
but they have,
Um,
they have a ton of Maori influence, so Pacific Islander influences.
So their heraldry is an all white. It's a great white shark. It's an all white shark on a black background,
Yeah.
which is supposed to represent them
in the void.
in the void, and not the void. Don't get the void confused with the warp.
Yeah,
The void is literally just
space.
deep space. But then they're also highly encouraged to decorate their armor
Mhm.
with
Scrimshawing.
additional symbols and icons of predators of the deep.
Mhm.
But then they have this huge tattoo culture
Yep.
where they will tattoo their forearms and their head with all of these spiraling patterns, but you earn them doing it. And then librarians, I think it's the librarians, right, that mark their armor with red.
Yeah, I believe so.
So it's every time that they it's like their sense of accomplishment, and they mark their armor.
And then
With
they
red
have like
marks.
your different companies are completely autonomous from each other.
Yep.
So like you'll be a part
And
of
they're
the,
all twin captain.
the twin captains. So there's two of them.
So you have the
The one who stays home, one who goes out and fights.
one of them is in charge of like all the logistics and does all the dealings with Mars.
Mhm.
And then the other one, I think that's where I got the herald of the
Yeah.
what's the chapter master called?
Tiberius, the Red Wake,
Right, but his position is the
Shade Lord.
Shade Lord. I think they're the herald of shade,
Yeah.
or whatever. They're something of the shade. Like they're
Well, no. That is a special position that is given to someone being like, because there's two people that have like a very special position, which is like the one that's in charge of the prime harvester or the prime reaper,
That's what Prime,
Prime
Reaper,
Reaper.
and the other.
Yeah.
And then the Shade guy. Those are the
Shade-
captains.
Yeah, they're kind of like a different structure. They're not part of the normal structure.
Yeah, but their
line.
whole structure, it doesn't line up with
It doesn't.
the rest of the way Astartes do
with,
it.
with those guys, like the Reaper Prime, his job is to do red tides. Like he goes out and just fucking gets people.
You know, well, he works for the chapter.
Yes.
Like at the company level, there's two, and there's two captains, and one of them's job is to like maintain like logistics
yeah.
and works with Mars to get equipment,
Mhm.
and then the other one, it's called like Herald of the Shade or
Herald of the
Hand of
Deep.
the Shade or something.
Yeah.
No.
The other one is in charge of deployment. One is in charge of deployment, and the other one is in charge of logistics. And
Yeah.
they do two different things.
No, so you have their chapter master, which is the Shade Lord.
Yeah.
Their company master, which are Reaper Prime and Harvest Prime, and then a strike leader, which is Sergeant, and then a Void
That's
Brother.
what it is. It's Reaper Prime and Harvest Prime.
Yeah.
Reaper Prime is in charge of combat and the Red Tithe, and Harvest Prime is in charge of logistics and the Gray Tithe.
Yep, exactly.
And that's how they split the responsibilities.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Correct.
And then,
But
then-
every company has those two.
Yeah.
Because they all work, they're all doing their own damn thing.
yeah, because they're all self-sufficient on their own.
Yep.
And then you have, and then the other thing is like they heavily do cryo sleep. Everyone, like if you are not fighting, you are asleep.
Are these playable in 40K right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They're so far in the deep and everything. It's like we don't have the fucking food.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Like,
can't
we don't-
feed you.
We can't feed
So
you.
if you're not fighting,
So if you're not fighting,
sleeping.
you're sleeping. You're going under.
But
And no one fucking talks.
there's some combat stuff that they're super, super famous for. So
The Bad App Wars.
the Bad App Wars, which was literally a bunch of companies of Space Marines that got together and decided to turn traitor, and the Space Sharks were like fuck you, Will, and they just
Yeah.
showed up and
Started fucking shit up.
just destroyed shit, which is and then started doing Red Tithe off of that, and
Yeah.
for all of these worlds that were controlled by other Space Marines, and they're like, yeah, no, we're taking this.
Yeah. It's like, oh, no, we're part of this. We're the Mantis Warriors were
They
our
have-
guys. Like, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, we killed all of them.
We killed everybody.
There's nobody left. And so they started
They're mine.
tithing off of Mantis Warrior worlds.
Yeah.
They have also famously shown up and saved the Blood Angels who were getting their ass kicked. And
Yeah.
the blood, they just showed up. And in the heraldry of the Blood Angels, that it was literally like a predator from the deep. They came from nowhere, and thus the redemption of the Blood Angels was found, and like all that shit. Like,
But they will just show up, fuck things up, and leave and not say a goddamn word.
That's funny.
yeah, like there's only one other chapter,
The Ashen Claws that they
the
talk
Ashen
to.
Claws, and they still hate each other, but they have this like agreement
Yeah.
that they're willing to
They
kind of like
fucking hate each other.
trade stuff back and forth because it was set as an agreement
Like,
however fucking long ago.
Yeah.
And,
Tens of thousands years
So
ago.
they've just held
but they
on to this
fucking hate
agreement,
each other.
but they hate each other. Absolutely hate each other.
It's like fuck you, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
And
I hate you.
but
hate
because
you
the
so
Ashen
much.
Claws operate like far out, but on the edge of where you'd really get into like there's no Imperial anything.
Yeah.
They operate as like this intermediary of like the ability to get stuff to the Sharks.
Yeah.
But then the Sharks use them to also take stuff and get it to Mars for them. So they're like Postmates for the Sharks. Like I don't
Yeah,
understand.
it doesn't. The whole thing.
Like,
it's a
why
lot of
they're
tradition
useful, but-
and
yeah.
stuff.
Uber Eats.
Yeah, it's like no, like they'll walk in and like Space Sharks will be like, we're low on gene seed. You owe us. And it's like
And it's 'cause
it's
they
like
saved
that,
them.
they're sitting across the table from each other, being like, "You owe us."
Yeah.
It's like we fucking do owe you, don't you? You son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
And because it started like they saved each other and then they've done stuff like every time somebody does one for the other, that means that one owed. There's like they just keep trading the debt back and forth. So yeah. It's like old school war, and it's like you killed my uncle. You owe me a goat.
Yeah.
And it's like
Yeah.
okay, well, here's two goats to say I'm sorry. Well, now I have goat debt because I owe you a
yeah,
goat.
I don't want,
And
I don't want two goats. I want a goat. I want that goat.
Now and it's like, yeah, but now you owe me.
Yeah.
And it's like, so
But it was so there's a book where they are talking to the Ashen Claws and they're like negotiating, and the Ashen Claws are just being a bunch of dickheads to them. like talking shit and saying that they're not anything. And the space sharks are not doing anything because if they get violent, then they no longer owe the Ashen Claws no longer owe them. So the Ashen Claws are trying to like goad them to fight them, so they don't owe them anything.
Well, because if the two fight, then they don't have a working relationship anymore.
Yeah.
So the sharks know they need them because the sharks don't go into the interior. So
yeah,
That's funny.
And so it's really funny. It was like when you kind of know the politics, you're just like those assholes. That's funny.
So
Yeah, but the Carcharodons there's such a great chapter, and they're starting to flesh out a lot of their lore and having a lot of fun stuff.
one of my favorite things, we're getting close to the end here, but one of my favorite things is the Carcharodons have absolutely no problem just fighting in space.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, hey, this is our territory. This is where we swim.
Yeah.
You're going to come out here and fuck around. We can do it. But they use old gear, like all the time.
Old, yeah.
Like a bunch of them are still like Mark IV, Mark V armor, like 10,000-year-old plus power armor and stuff like that.
Yeah, stuff from the Crusade.
And
Great
we're not
Crusade.
talking because it's their original. It's just like that's just what they have. So that's what you wear. But they use a bunch of I think they're called Medusa class weapons or whatever. Their ships fire giant space harpoons
What?
into other ships and hooks into them, and then they just
Pulls
Reel them in.
And
Just
and
slowly
then the
reel
rest
them
of their
in.
combat, they like to use drop pods.
Yeah. that's
They
all
actually hate heavy anything. The biggest heavy they'll do is heavy infantry, so like Terminators, stuff like that.
They're very piratey.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these guys will literally they'll drop like just a bunch of drop pods on a planet, destroy everything, snatch up what they need,
And bounce.
and leave. But they will harpoon other spaceships.
Yeah.
That is funny.
Because it's if you think about how they do it, that makes a lot of sense. If you harpoon someone and bring them in, board the ship and kill everybody in there, guess what? You got a brand new ship.
With a hole in the side of it.
A hole's
I
better than
fixed
getting
that.
exploded.
Yeah.
It's a pirate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They're very piratey.
Space pirate.
So that's how they
space
get.
sharks.
Yep.
And then the other thing is like their fleets are massive. Like these space shark fleets or the Carcharodon fleets are massive because they have to have so many support vehicles to help them.
Because they like to walk everywhere.
Yeah.
No, I'm not lying. They don't like they like to move very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't like to rely on like bigger tech.
Mhm.
So they always use, so it's like drop pods, boots on ground. Like they don't do the whole like, I brought 10,000 tanks, and they're like, I brought my fist. And like that's like
I brought a
that's
sword.
Yeah. The Carcharodons they like to win through
Violence.
it's violence of action.
Yeah.
So it's not we brought a big toy. It's like, how about just I move way faster and more violent than you do?
Yeah.
And then I win.
Just ultimate shock troops.
Yeah.
So super, super dope chapter, but I want to talk about them because they're cool as shit.
They're so cool. And yeah, there's other cool chapters.
And now the
that
more
are
we talk
spooky.
about them, the more I'm like,
I want to build them. Yeah.
Well, I
Because
mean,
there's a ton of good. If you're really interested in look at the lore, but there is a ton of stuff on the aftermarket, like really cool helmets and stuff. Because the Carcharodons are extremely popular, and the biggest problem is
a lot of people love space sharks, but there's no official models. They do not exist for the table.
Though looking at the emblems, I've seen those in the newer boxes of like the big boxes of Space Marines. I've seen that emblem.
Carcharodon patches are in
I've
there?
seen them. I have to double check my Leviathan box, and I'm
I'm gonna
pretty
have to go
sure they're on that
double-check those
sticker pack.
transfers.
Wow.
If there's
I'm
Carcharodons
pretty
in there,
sure
that's
they're
the
on there.
universe trying to tell me something.
Yeah. You got to make some.
I'll have to
cartridge.
double check my Leviathan box stickers, but I'm pretty sure I saw those on there.
The only official model they have is you can buy Tiberius. You can buy the Red Wake from Forge World.
From Forge World, right?
From Forge World.
Yeah.
You know what
That's
else
it.
came out from Forge World?
Oh, the new Fulgrim
Fulgrim.
model.
The Demon Primarch Fulgrim model that right now is only available in 30K, but I guarantee you we're going to get one for 40K.
It's
We
too
talked
nice
about
just
it on
for
the show.
30K.
We talked about it on the show where the EC's coming. Emperor's Children is going to be an official chapter.
Noise Marines are going to be a lot of
And
noise
Nailed
If they
it.
do that, I think that they're going to release
pretty soon.
a legend rule. I think what'll end up happening is that they'll legend rule him for 40K.
Mm-hmm.
He will not be tournament legal
Why though? You have other Primarchs that are tournament legal.
because it fucks with their story too much.
Yeah.
Unless they wrote a book that said that Fulgrim came back.
Well, he's never gone anywhere.
Yeah, he's
we
not-
know
he's
he's
not
alive,
dead.
and we know he's
around. He's just doing like weird Slanesh stuff.
But he's
He's
doing-
so pretty though.
He's the
model.
only one that could take off 100. He could take on 150 guardsmen and not even be in combat.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
That's not even how I imagine that model, but it is so
Waiting
pretty.
for Jim to get my joke.
No.
Wait, what? What'd you say?
Said he's the only Primarch that could take on 150 guardsmen and not even be in combat.
Is that a sex joke? Is that a sex joke? Are you,
It's an orgy joke.
Are you selling the guardsman name?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Especially for the Slaneshi Primarch. Yeah. Yeah.
Slanesh. That was the fourth time I met Slanesh.
Looking like a
He's coming
seal
for
at
you.
SeaWorld.
He does, doesn't
Just look at it.
He has a corset back and everything.
I'd like to hit you with my Phaedos pattern Glock 3000.
So wrong. I got this tail. You want to see some cool shit?
Okay. Let's go play Starfield and celebrate Jim's birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, me.
There is actually a tradition, though, when a new Carcharodon joins the ranks.
Oh, yeah.
tell
This
me.
is great.
And they hit him with it, and they just come out and they go, baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark, do 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 do, baby shark.
Mama shark.
And it's facts because I heard it from Russ. And if we know one thing,
Russ is right.
all right, y'all.
Oh.
Go out there, games, drinks, and hijinks. We highly encourage all three. And
I am going to smoke the biggest cigar I can find.
and we're gonna go do some birthday shit.
Yeah.
Yay! All right, guys, hit him with a Jim.
Bye.